I've got a show for you tonight. I'll get into that in a second, including having a special guest on our show this evening. Let me get to my conversation with Brother Kevin McGarry about Memphis and what happened in New Jersey today.
Fallout following the release of the body cam video of the police beating of Tyre Nichols. 3 Memphis first responders have been fired, and we're learning 2 other officers were relieved of duty.
We are looking at everybody.
The Memphis Fire Department says 2 EMTs, Jamichael Sandridge and Robert Long, and their lieutenant, Michelle Whitaker, have been fired after failing to adequately assess Nichols on the scene after he was brutally beaten January 7th, dying 3 days later at the hospital.
All right, so further discuss this story and the developments and the philosophy behind how the left is going absolutely nuts. I have a special treat for y'all. You know that I don't usually do guests on this show. We're probably changing that very soon, but I had to bring this guest on. I have Kevin McGarry here. He is the president of the Frederick Douglass Foundation of California, and he had a great article published today at American Thinker, and I had to bring him on to discuss it. Kevin, how are you doing? Tell us your thoughts. Just your headline title alone for the article. I won't say it says it all, but it definitely packs a punch.
Brother James, I got to first say, man, it's a real honor and privilege, man, for me to be here with you. Always admire your work. And so just know you got a big admirer here and a big fan. And it's just an honor and a privilege. Yeah, what I saw with the whole Memphis thing last week was a lot of people trying to hurry up and get this narrative about white supremacy and racism out. And I thought, this is really peculiar because the people involved have nothing to do with that. So the title of the article, to your point, was, Memphis burning. And then the subtitle was police brutality? Yes. Racism? No. And so I go through the article and I try to, help people to really orient their thinking around what's really going on here and not be so caught up with the one narrative that would really excuse the other potential root causes of this whole incident.
Now, one thing I love that you said here, Kevin, in the article is the racism narrative is compelling, but it is not the root of all evil. Yeah. Is it me, or does it seem like that is the go-to gut reaction every time a Black man or a Black woman is a victim of a crime?
Every single time, irrespective of whether it's Black on Black or whatever the case may be. Like this case, you got 5 Black police officers on 1 Black citizen, and it's a horrible, horrible incident what happened, and it's gruesome. I mean, completely inhumane. But the whole point is, your point is, every single time, whether it's Black on Black or not, there's this narrative about white supremacy and racism. They have to push this, and the reason being is because it's profitable for them to do so. It's profitable for them to do so for the individuals like Sharpton and Jackson and these other characters who are always race baiting in this way.
I'm gonna climb until Tyre Nichols get justice. Yeah. Yes, I got books out. Yes, I got a TV show, but I'm a mountain climber. I'm not gonna stop till I get to the top of the mountain. You can call me names on right-wing television. I'm a mountain climber.
But it's also profitable for them to do so they deflect and keep the sort of the narrative off of themselves. I mean, anybody who understands Memphis or the politics in Memphis, you understand that the governor, the mayor, the chief of police, the police captain, everybody all the way down are leftist progressive Democrats. So the whole idea is, if we can pin it on white supremacy and racism, we can keep keep the scope off of ourselves as being complicit, or somehow we missed something in this whole incident. And the idea is to always paint it with that narrative, so we can short shrift it and just have whoever did these heinous acts, suffer the consequences, but always keep the magnifier off of themselves, and therefore they can continue to, do what they're doing.
In Memphis, the swift action to dismiss and charge the officers involved has been noticeable.
So it's like everything we see from the progressive left. It's a distraction. It's a deflection. It
Always.
is a denial of the actual issue at play. Because I think we can agree. You said it. You said it right there. Police brutality, yes.
Yes. So here's the thing. When you look at this incident now, when I saw it, I thought, oh my goodness, this is worse than a gang beatdown. I mean, these people, they are going all in and just really, really horrendous. I feel really, really sorry for Tyre and his family. My prayers are with him. It's just a terrible incident for a family to have to see what happened. But then when you look at it, you see, no, this is not driven by just, hey, I opportunistically came up on a guy and I just decided, I'm angry today and I'm going to give him beat. This was something additional that was driving this level of hatred and inhumanity. And it came out today that, well, yeah, one of the officers had an ex that apparently Tyre was involved with or was still involved with. And that could have been the real icing on the cake that drove the animus, the tremendous disdain for humanity, and had them take those actions upon that young man. I mean, just a horrible thing.
So there's usually more to the story than we initially find out. Or in your article, you make a great point about not jumping to conclusions.
Right. So here's what happens. If we immediately jump to conclusion, let's say we all were just, okay, this is clear racism. That's what it is. Then that prevents us from looking at hiring practices. You got to remember that they have a failed police chief that they hired, who was a female, Black female, that they hired here in Memphis. And they hired her, I guess, based on gender and color and that kind of thing. But anyway, they hired her. But she got fired, and I think it was Georgia, Atlanta. But anyway, that notwithstanding, so you have that, and then you have the issue of this whole Scorpion unit that you could look at, whether they were really hostile, whether they encouraged a certain amount of violence, whether that was, permitted. Then you have the training practices. Then you have the psychological evaluations. Then you have the entire defund police debacle. So now this is really getting to the nub of what happened here. If you look at the defund police and you look at cities like Memphis, you had a lot of police officers retire quickly when that whole thing started to go down a few years ago. And so they were under the gun to hire as many people as they can to fill the void, because other than that, you're going to have civil disorder. I mean, law enforcement, if you don't have enough law enforcement in the city, you're not going to be able to maintain the city for any length of time. So they had to hurriedly onboard as many officers as they could to help fill the void of the folks that were leaving, going to Florida or other places. And so when you look at all of this in its totality, you see that, okay, you probably hired people from the community, which is fine. That's fine. But you may have shortcutted the normal on-board process because you needed bodies on the street sooner rather than the actual normal training process. You look at the backgrounds of these officers, the majority of them were under 3 years. I think there were only 2 that were there for like 5. So when you take all of that in consideration, and again, I'd love to see the psychological evaluations. All officers should have that. Mm-hmm. All officers should have a certain amount of training. I'd like to see whether there were any other incidents in the history of these officers. All of that sincere, rigorous evaluation is completely dismissed if we go with a narrative of, yeah, it's racist, it's white supremacist. These guys were, you see, so we're in real danger here. Tyre's life was ended, and we need to be serious about trying to get to the root cause of the issue. Just dismissing it simplistically dismissing it as, oh, it's just racist white supremacist, let's move on. It's ridiculous. And people like Sharpton and Jackson and these other characters who want to quickly characterize it to make a political point and also to fill their pockets, they do a disservice to the family, to this young man, to everybody involved in this incident. All I'm saying is, look, can we be rigorous? Can we seriously take a look at what happened here? And I think that that's the smartest way for us to go about making sure that this incident doesn't reoccur. Because again, if you just dismiss it as, well, racist white supremacists, we'll put them in jail and throw away the keys, then you never get to the other stuff that could have really been a part of it. And then what happens is you have the incident reoccurring. So if we really want to do away with these types of incidents, we got to look at it all.
Well said. Well said, Kevin. Now, are you aware of this story coming out of New Jersey of this Black Republican councilwoman who was shot to death in her vehicle last night? Yeah. And some sort of apparent, looks like some sort of targeted attack.
Okay, we begin with breaking news this morning. A 30-year-old councilwoman has reportedly been shot and killed. This is in New Jersey.
According to the New Jersey Globe, it was 30-year-old Sayreville councilwoman Eunice Dwumfor. This all happened just after 7 o'clock last night. They got a 911 call reporting shots fired on the Samuel Circle, which again is right inside this condo complex. When cops got here, they found an unresponsive woman in the front seat of her car who was shot multiple times. She was pronounced dead at the scene.
I'm not going to stop till I get to the top of the mountain.
Where's Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson on this one?
Right.
Why do you think? I mean, it's now been a good, 24 hours, 20 plus hours. Where's the outrage on that? First of all, she's a woman of color, but she's a woman, right? I mean, I could define a woman, and I'm pretty sure we can all agree in the definition. This is a Black woman. Where is the outrage? Why isn't this on the front page? Why isn't Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and the other characters, as you rightfully put, why aren't they on this case? Why aren't they screaming bloody murder literally on this one?
Yeah, it's so terrible. We have this young, I think she was only 30, recently elected councilwoman, but she happened to be a Republican, okay? And she's in New Jersey. Everybody knows, Phil Murphy and what happens in New Jersey is just a terrible state. But from a leftist progressive standpoint, it's just it's off the charts. But that notwithstanding, for everyone to not be outraged, this young woman who was just sitting in her car got targeted and murdered brutally, shot multiple times apparently, and died right there at the scene. And then we hear nothing from Sharpton. Wasn't he just at the funeral yesterday and just raising all of this ruckus about Blacks and being killed mercilessly in our cities? Well, here's a perfect instance where Sharpton could have come and said, look, and he lives right across the way. He's in New York. So what happened? So, it's just terrible. What we're going to see is there is no outrage when it's conservative or Republican that's involved. I mean, it's just, okay, well, just the way it is for you guys, right? It's terrible.
So I guess as much as they scream from the mountaintops, the rooftops, riot and fight and cancel you over not accepting them, in the end, every Black life doesn't matter, especially if you are not a progressive leftist. Brother Kevin, thank you so much for joining me on this one. Look forward to having you back. Appreciate your time and your graciousness.
Thank you, James. Really appreciate being here. God bless you, brother.